This is the iPhone 5s and I used it as my only phone for a week. And
What? Why can't you hear me? How did it die? Why is it not letting me book an Uber?
let's talk about it. The iPhone 5s is Apple's 7th iPhone. While it looked very similar to the iPhone 5, it kind of paved the way for the future of the entire Apple lineup. It was the first phone with a 64-bit chip, the first to make fingerprint scanning mainstream with phones, and the first phone that shipped with iOS's first major overhaul, iOS 7. Kind of funny that iOS hasn't changed a lot since 2013. It's been 10 years. Anyways, I chose the iPhone 5s because it's the only 2013 phone that's close enough to running modern software. The iPhone 5s runs iOS 12, not the latest or greatest, but something recent. The other options I had were the Galaxy S4 and the HTC One, which both run Android 5 from 2015. That's too outdated. I don't want to end up in the same situation as the Windows Phone. The whole inspiration behind this video is when I saw someone use the iPhone 5s out in the wild in 2023. Why would anyone use a 10-year-old phone in 2023 or 2024? That's what I wanted to find out. So for this to work as my main phone, the most important thing is the setup process. Since I will be using this for a week, I wanted to make sure I have everything I need for daily tasks. I do need a lot of apps that I use on a daily basis. Here's where the problem starts. For some reason, I cannot log in with my Apple ID. I tried so many things, even turned off advanced data protection, but it never worked. Weirdly enough, it does let me log into the App Store and Apple Music, so I guess it works. You see, iOS 12 is from 2018. Most apps nowadays don't support it. What was the point of using the iPhone 5s? I don't know. But when you try to install any app, it will try to install the last supported version of it. And in my case, the last supported version of Notion doesn't work. But Instagram, WhatsApp, and YouTube work. And if you hate X, well, the old Twitter app is there to save the day, but it prompts you to update and fails to display tweets. Meanwhile, apps like BeReal completely lack support for iOS 12. Sad. How am I going to be real? Apple Music thankfully works, so streaming music won't be a problem. And network, mail, all work properly. I honestly did not expect to run into problems like this. But at least there are some apps. I don't think so it's going to be that bad. I'll be back in a week. It's been a week. Let's talk about it. Time travel doesn't work like that, by the way. The first thing that strikes me the most is the design. I kind of forgot how small this phone is. This is by no means a big phone in 2013. It's pretty tiny. Looking at it next to the iPhone SE, god damn, it's small. Just like other iPhones, it's built really well. It feels very premium. This design is honestly way better than the iPhone 6 and 6s. Why would Apple make their newer phones bad? It has a boxy design like newer iPhones, but with a twist. It's an all-aluminum unibody design except for the top and bottom, which is kind of strange, but it blends well with the overall design. This boxy design is pretty good with the small size of the iPhone 5s. And this was the last iPhone apart from the first gen iPhone SE that has no camera bumps.
Wow.
It has this retro vibe going around with circular volume buttons, chamfered edges, which honestly are pretty scuffed up here. Or hey, headphone jack. I know it's 10 years old, there's nothing retro about it. Also, this phone is feather light. Sometimes I don't really feel it in my pockets. It's about the same thickness as my iPhone 13 Pro, but you don't really feel the thickness at all because it's pretty small and it's pretty comfortable. What I hate are the vibrations. It's so loud. Very obvious that yes, your phone is buzzing. It has the usual iPhone design language before the iPhone 10, that means home button, thick bezel, but it's very functional. Also, this was the last iPhone that had the sleep wake button at the top, which complements well with the small form factor. At the front there's the Touch ID sensor. This was the first phone that did fingerprint scanning seamlessly. There's no sort of weird swipe gestures, but a single tap. Now this Touch ID sensor is pretty slow. It takes a good second or two to unlock, but it's there and it's great. The display is subjective. There's a lot of problems. It's not bright. Since the screen is tiny, it's hard to read things. Typing is hard on the small screen and a lot of things don't fit in it. So you'll be scrolling a lot just to see things. But it's a good quality panel. It's sharp, vibrant, and looks better than some cheap phones. Now that I got those out of the way, let's talk about my experience using it for a week. Where do I even start? It can do all of the basic phone things. You can call people, listen to music, text, browse the internet. Everything is fine on the iPhone 5s, all while the battery life takes a hit. I badly wish this phone lasted a whole day. The whole week I used it, I charged the phone a lot more than I usually do. It would just last me 2 hours and that's on light use. I wouldn't expect it to last more than half an hour if I leave apps open in the background or stream videos with mobile data. iOS doesn't show its battery health, but if I use coconut battery, I get its true health and it's not great. To make it through a day, I carried a power bank everywhere I went.
Another thing that became pretty annoying were the speakers. It's just terrible.
What about the performance? It's 10 years old, it's gonna be very slow, right? Yes and no. It is slow. Apps take a while to launch, YouTube would take a while to load videos, Instagram would often not load a few elements or straight up crash, or even websites would take a while to load. The point is, it is slow, but it's not that drastic that it makes your whole phone unusable. Many common tasks run fine. iOS 12 feels very different. It lacks a lot of things like dark mode, app library, or widget. But like I said earlier, iOS 12 is from 2018. Even if some apps work, they don't support any of their newer features, and some flat out remind you to update when you can't even update them. You'll never forget this is a 10-year-old phone. Every part of the phone reminds you about it. It's nowhere similar to the same way a newer iPhone would work, but it's not that bad. I honestly don't believe any 2013 flagship would perform as good as this in 2023 or 2024. And I'm not going to deny the fact that yes, technically you can make any 2013 Android phone run the latest version of Android and use the latest version of any app. But it's not going to perform nearly as well as the iPhone 5s, and let's not forget, going through the hoops of rooting a phone and installing custom ROM is not easy. I surely can do all of it. I've done a lot of custom ROM installations back in my day. It is not something you can honestly daily drive. I'll talk a lot more about custom ROMs in a future video. It's way better than the Windows phone I used, which basically supported nothing. But it's not as great as an experience I had with the iPhone 6s or the iPhone 7. And since we're talking about performance and experience, let's just talk a bit about the A7 chip in here. This is by no means a fast phone. The Geekbench scores are a joke and the phone just has 1 GB of RAM. But the A7 chip back in 2013 was the stepping stone for the future of phone chips and computers. By 2013, no one, not even ARM, the company that licenses every mobile chip, had plans for 64-bit adoption on phones. It was all going to happen eventually, but no one really cared about it in 2013. Every other phone had a quad-core or octa-core chips. It was their way to show significant jumps, except, surprise surprise, Apple, who stuck to dual-core since the iPhone 4S, which in itself was a huge jump. And the A7 chip was 2 times faster in terms of CPU, 2 times faster in GPU. But I feel just talking about performance on its own doesn't really matter. What does matter is how each app took advantage of all the headroom it offered and could build on new and innovative features. And being early to 64-bit helped Apple to push desktop-level tasks on the iPhone and iPad, while also helping them build Apple Silicon for the Mac, which changed the whole game. And a sub to this channel would also be a game changer. I could not hit 8,000 subs in 2023, but I'm sure I can hit 100k subs in 2024. Please make that happen.
Finally, let's talk about the camera. Right now, I'm shooting this part of the video on the iPhone 5s and I know it's not great.
The iPhone 5s wasn't really a huge leap in terms of camera performance. It allowed for better low-light capabilities than the iPhone 5 and brought the first ever True Tone flash. Before I even show you the photos or videos, this phone is 10 years old. The advancements we've had since 2013 are huge. We have bigger sensors, higher megapixels, smart processing tricks. These all shaped up how we see smartphone photography. New phones in 2023 are so great that we often compare them with high-end mirrorless cameras. But how does this camera stack up? Well, for something that's 10 years old, it does a decent job. Things like contrast and dynamic range are, well, non-existent. It's grainy at every situation and it's good at handling skin tones. That's the only thing I'll give it. And for a comparison, I threw my iPhone 13 Pro in for the mix, and to no one's surprise, the iPhone 13 Pro's photos just look miles ahead of the iPhone 5s. The front camera is also just fine. Again, it's unprocessed, but there's no way someone will post selfies from this to Instagram. It's literally a potato cam.
And the video is bad. There's no sort of depth, there is no dynamic range, and it's 1080p. Considering it's a 10-year-old phone, I guess it's fine. And the video on the front is horrible. I'm not going to use this for anything, for sure.
This is the first iPhone with slow motion and it's fine. Okay, I've been overreacting a lot about this camera. I had slight expectations of it being better, but I've been severely disappointed. The iPhone 5 was a boring iPhone in 2013, and we clearly knew it. We had this TikTok cycle with the iPhone, and anyone who closely followed Apple knew that the S generation of an iPhone generally brought new features, but no physical differences. Just look at newer iPhones. Each iteration lately just brings some new feature or two and improves the camera. Actually, at this rate, only the camera is getting improved. We have clearly hit the peak with the iPhone, and there isn't a whole lot that can be changed or improved. It's basically perfect. I know Apple is not going to bring the S nomenclature back because we are definitely going to end up with iPhone 12 SSSSSSSS. I can go on. Before I end this, I have some nitpicks. The network reception was very bad. I got no service in many spots and the data speeds were very slow. But other than that, I think I've covered most of what I felt about the iPhone 5s. It wasn't a great experience, but it was not as bad as the Windows Phone, I can tell you that. I'm just happy I can go back to my iPhone 13 Pro. But the iPhone 5s is not unusable. I'm not surprised I saw someone use it in the wild. If you were ever in a situation where you had to use this phone and had no choice, it's fine. But it's not a great option if you're gonna use this for any longer than a week or two. Personal experience. I'm not gonna recommend this phone in any form to anyone. I got this for about $25. If you wanna play around with an old phone like I do, then sure, get it. It's a great option for kids, but I'm pretty sure they'll be disappointed the moment they discover they can't install any new games. Shocker. If you wanna see why is this the best iPhone ever, click here.